Good morning, everyone. Welcome to coaching. Sporting the white shirt today, going back to more of a traditional Will Cooper look. Yeah, I wore white shirts all the time for years and years and years and years, and finally got so tired of it. But this morning, for whatever reason, just felt like a white shirt day. So glad to be back sporting the white shirt. And today we're talking about 25 questions that need to be answered in the marketing presentation. This is a really just a different perspective and a really great way to look at our listing presentation or marketing presentation. So it's brand new material. The backdrop to this is that Amy and Hobbs and I were yesterday up at 537 Main having a meeting about our version 2 of the coaching manual. We're running out of copies, so we need to do a reprint. So we made a couple of little small changes and injected some of the new material, and that's this is one of them right there. You can kind of see I've already made my notes, and this will show up in version 2 of the coaching manual. So the high, I guess the 50,000 view of this is would fall under how we communicate. Okay, so there's a couple of great communicators do different aspects of this. Today we're going to focus on question. And when you pose questions, you lead conversation. So that's the first thing to understand. When you ask questions, you lead the conversation. So that's when it needs to be written down. How do I better my communication? Ask more questions. So instead of coming in with statements about how great you are or whatever, things like that, and just start talking, lead with question. And you'll get better discovery that way. And you'll also guide and lead the discussion in the way that, we need to lead them. Okay. So some of these questions are going to be very, very obvious, and they're laid out here. Let me go ahead and just show you my screen. They're laid out from a perspective of, like see over here, I've got core concerns or core, I would say maybe these are, like even core benefits. So I use that word a lot, core or fundamental. They're kind of things that you should memorize. Okay, so let's write down on page 87, what are our core benefits? And we talk a lot about this. So these questions are related around that. It's, of course, the highest price. So everything we do is about them getting a highest price. The next one is quickest sale. The next one is best chance of selling. Next one is least amount of legal risk. And the last one is highest net at closing. I'll do those one more time. Highest possible price, quickest sale, best chance of selling, least amount of legal risk, highest net at closing. Those are core or fundamental benefits, meaning it's the result of what we do, okay? And if we don't have the benefit, discussion, or communication, we miss the mark, okay? Well, these questions are centered around that. So let's take the first one. Very obvious, but what's the true market value? These are questions they ask you, what's the value? You could approach that. Hey, I've also been considering really what is the value of this property? What's the true market value? And boy, that sure starts off with, bullseye, right? We want to know exactly the same thing. It's the number one question that every seller wants to hear answered, which is, what's the value? Okay, in addition to what's written down here. So we've got, let me give you some, let's go through the bullet points and then I'll tell you in addition. I'm gonna really fly fast through this because I would like to back up and have a kind of a general review of how we engage people with question. So this is really getting down into the weeds. So clearly we have CMA, we have appraisal, we use Moxie. There's this idea of, it's obviously everyone's going to be doing something similar to this. You probably want to take some time and define the difference in a market evaluations and appraisal. Okay. My best way to say this is an appraisal is not a prediction of what a buyer will pay, but rather a justification of what they already agreed to pay. Okay. And it's for lending purposes. Your value is you can project what a buyer will pay because you can adjust using pendings and actives. Appraisals cannot do that. Appraisals are for lending purpose guidelines, have to justify what someone paid. It is not a prediction of what someone will pay. Make sure you understand that principle, communicate that. Tax assessment data will usually set the ballpark, of where, values are. It's certainly a piece of information we want to have. We've got construction and reproduction costs. So if you're keeping notes here, let's also add, this is the cost approach. Cost approach to value is taking what we paid, what we added to the property, improvements, and remodels, and then we add time over that. Time can either depreciate or it can appreciate the property. That's the cost approach. Remember this from real estate school, right? Okay, then of course, we have our pendings and actives. This is like the trends. Pendings and actives set trends. That's why it's so important to keep those, as part of our evaluation, where appraisals and, historical sold comps are a justification using something that's now, outdated. And the older the comp, the worse it is, okay? So pendings and actives are a prediction. Okay, remember also that we're talking about market value, that we don't forget amenity market. Okay, so there's like compare, since we were just at Red Ledges yesterday, Red Ledges is all about lifestyle. Lifestyle, lifestyle, lifestyle. Where else can you go to find that lifestyle? That becomes a comp. Doesn't matter how far it is. Okay, I mean, geez, it could be 10 miles away. In other words, a lot further than 6 blocks. But we start to look at it through the lens of amenity market. We're starting to look at it better and a higher level. It's the Berkshire way. It's not amateur. It's not what everybody else is doing. It's not knee-jerk reaction. It is a much higher and detailed approach to value. You guys good? Own this discussion. Own it. Okay, this is, if I had to put percentages to this is 70% of your proposition is centered around this. Okay, got to know this. Okay, so I've given you 6 tips there, 4 that are printed and 2 more, okay? All right, the next one is my net, which all has to do with, well, what's left over, okay? So very akin to what's my property going to sell for, what is it worth, what am I going to realize after it, including commissions, okay? So we've got net sheets, and look, I put prepared by title company. There was a time in my career where, I even drafted net sheets that we would fill out. We've gotten away from that, and it's the reason why we had disclaimers at the bottom of them, because we were often held to those numbers at settlement, and we want to get you guys not the target, and we don't want guns pointed at you at settlement when that number doesn't add up exactly. So let's have the title companies do that. This is all part about being, higher level professional. Reach out with the projected value, have them put the cost to it, and bring that along with you to your presentations, okay? Because what is my net? All right, what's my worth? What's my net? Also, we're discussing about potential repair negotiations, reference section 8.1 and due diligence, and the buyer due diligence checklist. Hope you're making notes quick. Are you taking notes quick? Well, I hope you retain this. This is good stuff. So, all right, we're going to talk about everything that a buyer may evaluate and inspect. And when those issues start to appear, then we start tackling them, right? All right, next one is discussing potential closing costs. Now, look, just a year ago, this was like, what are you talking about, Will? Who's paying for closing costs? Well, guess what? They're back. And there's also buy downs. So we want to talk about that. It came up in sales meeting yesterday up at Red Ledges, very independent. So, you need to do some hypotheticals, right? So what are the ranges? Get some good numbers. Get a quote from Metro, call Tim and say, here, my listing is X. Just talk to me about like a jumbo financing. What does it look like? What is it going to cost? How many years does it take to save? Go in with some ammunition and some numbers that help guide this discussion on what I'm going to net, right? This also sets proper expectation, okay, these discussions, okay? Next, how long will it take to sell? This is clearly looking at trends of days on market, and they're changing. So, we're seeing increasing days on market. So I would lead the receiver, as the saying goes. So look at the trend. If we hit the market in, say, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, what days on market might look like. And obviously, we have seasonal adjustments as well that you can talk about, and how the buyer demographics shift throughout the months of the year. So the next one is, will my property sell at all? There are some price ranges that, we could be on the market for a while. And I'm talking something that, like around a year. And then you wonder, well, will it really sell? Same data that is pulled to use all these other answers, these other questions can be used with whether property will sell, at what price point, and what the odds are. Okay, this is where we talk about absorption rate. So the total amount of listings is the whole. We add back in the pendings to get the 100%. So it's active plus pendings. And then you take the ones that have sold and the ratio of that against the total 100%. Let me say that equation again. Take pendings, add to actives. Okay, so if I had 10 actives and 5 pendings, then I have 15 total. And then how many that have sold out of that group? If the sold is the if the sold is a pending, we don't add it to the 100%. That wouldn't be absorption rate. Okay, so if we need to add the sold to the pending, we would also, to get our 100%, we would go active, pending plus sold, and then divide that by the number of sold, and that's our absorption rate. In other words, how often does it take a property to sell? A lot of our MLSs will do some of this for you, but we need to talk about the odds and chance of selling. Okay, higher level discussion. This, again, not an amateur approach. Notice it's all based around the core and the core benefits of price, time, right? Chance of selling, and it just leads out legal risk. Legal risk is not in this first group. Okay. All right, that's a lot. Let's go to the next group now. And I hope that during your time, with me, you start to realize that I really like to, because it's best for you. Okay, it's not, you kind of learn from failures. You learn what sticks. But you want to be able to use digital. You want to use your contracts, your forms, as a way to educate and present as a visual. And they can be digital, which is kind of where my head was, or they can be printed. Either way, but you need to be able to reference those things. So think about it this way. We're about to dive into, hopefully, an exclusive right to sell, right? We're going to be talking quickly or soon about an exclusive right to sell. So how does all of those questions need to be answered that go into the ERS? Okay. Well, first question. So how are we going to go about marketing the property, right? How do we find a buyer? What a great question. How are we going to find a buyer for your property? And we just say, given the current market conditions, right? How do we do that? Well, certainly we have the principle of exposure, more showings, more offers, better price. But we have not just the exposure of in person, but we have digital exposure. Remember, your first showing is always online. This is where syndication exposure comes in. So, you might want to just say digital is general, syndication's more specific. Syndication's all the websites we support. It's in your listing presentation, and we talk about how they're all syndicated out. Okay. Social media exposure. So, boy, that's a lot of exposure. All right. And then we track and see how the market responds to that. So there may be some discussions about who is our buyer, like who else wants this kind of lifestyle, or where would I find this buyer? Where are they coming from? How can I, get out in front of this? Google has a saying called 0 point of difference. And it's where they've done a lot of big analytics over when does a potential buyer become a buyer. And it's right in this moment, right before they go from buyer to potential, they call 0 point of difference. That's the place that you want messaging to happen. Okay, so that's all around this discussion of marketing. We need to answer the question, is there an open house and when? So we grab a calendar and we talk about which day might be best. And if the seller is not yet convinced that maybe you're the agent, still march through this. And let's just say, well, hypothetically, when do you think we may be ready for our first open house? And remember, I talk about why we do certain things, and everything is tied back to a core benefit. But there are stepping stone benefits that get us across the river. If the core benefit is across the river, the stones are the things that take us there. Okay, so the reason we hold an open house is because an open house does something that no other form of marketing can do. And it's listed right here. Open houses create neighborhood awareness better than anything else we can do. That's why we do them. It also creates agent and broker exposure. So that's the purpose. Okay. So we don't just say open house. Open house is the feature. This is the benefit. See, this morning's about communicating better, right? That's why I'm taking this approach this way. Okay, so that's the reason, and that's the question. And now we've got also it's showing convenience because we can get the house ready, and then we can, it's talking about, here we're saying, look, we want to minimize the effect on your life. You're living in the house still. Let's minimize the effect. Open houses create a convenient way to tour the property. But certainly its main benefit is this awareness. So that needs to be answered. The other ones are, what do we need to be working on to be ready for showings? So simplifying, declutter, address any deferred maintenance or staging may need to happen. Are there any specific cosmetic updates that could complete prior to showings? So all of this is a kind of a strategy discussion. Are there things to declutter? Everyone's going to say yes, right? Yes, there are. And sometimes we get spouses arguing about this, like, see, I told you so, or whatever, or they'll want to have you referee the two opinions. I said this and she said that, or, what do you think, right? Put you right in the middle. But there's certainly things that we need to get done. So again, we grab the calendar and we say, okay, well, what do you guys think? How much time do you need? And when this is finished, then we have photography, and then we can talk about open houses and MLS and when everything goes out to syndication and that sort of thing, right? So this is akin to that. When will pictures and video be captured after all of that? And it's in section 9 of the exclusive right to sell. It's referencing section of the contract. So we need a calendar again, okay? And where and when the sign will be placed, again, part of section 9. And these are great questions. Have you thought about where we may put this sign? Often I go out and say, let's go walk out right now. Yeah, tell me where you think, right? And if you don't do that, it's like, don't take shortcuts here. Just walk out there and tell me where you want the sign, and we'll make sure that happens. Okay, take a picture of it, and then you can send it on to our sign person for very specific instructions. Okay. Where would the key box be placed? And we talk about key boxes. What's their reason? What's their purpose? Why do we have them? Clearly, they're for safety for the seller. Only licensed active agents can access this. So make sure you explain the purpose and reason for the benefit of a key box. How will showings happen is, again, like what's our process here? I mean, look, if house is empty, that's easy. Key box and you're in, right? Some of our listings, the listing agent needs to attend every listing. It needs to be there. So are there preferred schedules? How do we do that? If the seller's gone during the day, I mean, we're just talking through the process. Every time that happens, remember, when they give you an answer, you write it down. Okay. Number 12 is, when will the property be officially listed on the MLS? Again, same thing. And look, we explain clear cooperation guidelines. And you need to know what those are. I'm sorry, I'm laughing to myself right now, because if there's a brand new agent attending this, like brand new, and I don't know if we have anyone, but who's never been in real estate for more than a day, this is where they go, are you kidding me? I don't want to play this game. Yeah, there's a lot to this. That's why we get paid so much, right? There's a lot to this. So anyway, clear cooperation guidelines are, the reminder is, if it's publicly marketed, it's 24 hours to be on the MLS. What is public marketing? We define that. Signs, social media, any posting on any website of any kind is public marketing. The exceptions are new construction and land sales, so they don't apply. But you want to explain there's rules to being a part of the MLS that every brokerage needs to participate in and agree to. So don't skip the complexities. If you skip the complexity, you skip the problem. If you skip the problem, then you don't have a solution, because there's no need for one, because there's no problem. And if you don't have a solution, you don't have value, right? So slow down and talk about complexities. That's kind of what this is all about, is giving you a way to dive into the weeds and the details so they can understand the scope of the work that you provide. Otherwise, you're overpaid and you'll get a commission objection. Or they're going to think that, I'll say it. They're going to think homie might be a great option for them, right? Yeah, because it's a lot cheaper. I mean, just think of how much money they can save. I mean, they're throwing it at everyone's faces on every billboard up and down I-15. I mean, come on. So if we don't stop and talk about the complexity, You don't have a solution, you don't have value. Okay, so talk through all of these things. Let's talk about how the buyer agent will be compensated. Okay, and how that's posted. You might want to look at some of the comparables. Make sure that we explain that we don't want to be. Yeah, I've got a misprint here. I knew there were 25 questions. See, it says 24, and I'm like, no, there's 25. Well, there it is. It's disguised as 13B. Anyway, we discuss how all that works, and you back up and you say, look, agents have buyer clients, and they work with buyer clients. This is what they do for buyer clients, and there's a job to be done that we're paying them, not just to sell the property like as some incentive. It's more that there's a job to do. So what's the job of a buyer's agent, right? You got to define that. Again, slowing down, talking about what they do, the scope of what the buyer does. And look, at somewhere along the line, if you're doing this correctly, the person's just going to be like, wow, you're going to know that they're already really committed to you. Yeah, so that's how you know you're doing it the right way, when you've jumped into enough complexity. Okay, how can I be sure my funds are going to my account? Wow, yeah, this is great. This is about wire fraud and how real it is. And we talk that through. We talk about what's the difference in settlement, funding, recording, possession. Okay, right towards the end, these are very, very different events that happen, and all of them are very critical, including funding and how it goes to recording and what happens with funds that are sent to title companies. Okay, what do we do to protect them? All right, number 14, what will the buyer expect to have included in the sale? We're going to do a CE class. Let me stop for just a second because it's probably tedious looking at that. Look, we're going to do a CE class on September 14th, Mark and I. It's live and on Zoom. Yeah, that's right, Joe. There's a Zoom component and there's a live. We're going to broadcast live from third floor. We can have as many as we want in here. We can only have 100 on Zoom. So I'd really like to see 200 of us on this discussion. What we're doing is we're taking sections of the purchase contract. They're the ones that are often litigated around or settled around. And frankly, the settlements are just as bad as the litigation, if not worse. Okay. So, of course, this is getting back to lowering legal risk. Okay. All right, September 14th. So don't forget that 9:30 live or on Zoom. If you can make it live, gosh, please do so. I mean, aren't we just zoomed out? I'd love to see you in person. When we were up there with Joe Carter and the Red Ledges folks, it was just so great to see everybody, And anyway, so it's worth the drive, September 14th. Water shares, assessments, look, costs that are mine, that's going to go back to the net sheet that the title company prepared. All of this is, section 3.3 of the REPC, or section 3 of the REPC, but also defined in our listing agreement, okay, what they're going to be obligated to. And you're the gatekeeper on those fees to make sure they don't get overcharged or there's a fee that's improper. Then we move on to what I just need to disclose. Of course, we're talking about 10.2 and 10.3 here, and any cost of special assessments or future assessments that may not be, time-stamped today, but are coming. And we've had a lot of discussion about how important it is to disclose so you're not held liable. So, yeah, close friend, I can't just say names, but a very, very close friend of mine who has legal training talked to me yesterday and said, you should see my disclosures. And we kind of both laughed because they're extensive. And because a legal strategy to protect against lawsuit is to over disclose, because you hand the issue to the buyer and they have no argument. Okay. Akin to that is of course 1.3. My latest story about this was a Tesla charger. The seller told the listing agent, like, I'm taking this. Just he was a little irritated about how things were going with the transaction and didn't particularly like the buyer. And so he just said, I'm taking this. And We're like, well, no, because it's like bolted to the wall of your garage and it's hardwired into your electrical system. This is not an unplugged, appliance. You don't just unplug this from the wall. It's hardwired in. So no, you're not taking it. And if it would need, of course, we can all, like, wasn't hindsight 2020? Why was the Tesla charger not written down in 1.3? Right? Yeah, it should have, but it wasn't. So now we're defining it as attachments with property that's not listed in section 1.1. So this is really critical that we slow down, we go through the rep sheet, we go through 1.1, we read 1.1 to our seller, and we get very specific about what's included and what's not. Okay. Then we get other questions they're going to ask you, like, am I obligated to appraise value? What does that look like? You remember FHA asterisk here about what that means. Appraisals stick with the property for 6 months, but you do not have to sell for that. 21, what if our plan, if we get multiple offers, and how does that work? We go back through multiple offers. We've had, of course, a lot of practice, I think, at that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but you certainly want to, dive into some of those forms, show them what this looks like, what's the process. And remember, you have to ask them if you could disclose that there's multiple offers. You must get seller's permission to do that before you answer the agent's question. Do you have another offer? Okay. When should we pack? Yeah, what a great question. Like, when should we start putting everything in boxes? And this is where we talk about possession and conditions, contingencies, earnest monies. Like, when do we really know we have a deal? And we all go, when it's recorded. So once you pack the moment it's recorded and the buyer takes possession, some of these dang rep sheets are written 24 hours or upon or 48 hours. I mean, frankly, I've never been a fan of that. If I'm selling, my house today, the buyer takes possession maybe 5 days, 7 days after I get my money. And that's when I'm going to start packing. But it's admittedly, I live in the ER of real estate transactions. So all I see are the broken legs, and maybe I'm a little jaded. Okay. All right. So what about the warranty, the home warranty? We dived into that and how that's a great protection for them. And when should we make an offer on a new property? Wow, a whole nother rabbit hole to go down in how we deal with conditions, contingencies, and protect their deposits. Oh my gosh, that's a lot. I've been talking for 30 minutes straight. You guys still there? So what are your thoughts? What's your input? What are we learning from this? Any perspective? 25 questions that must be answered. If you think about it, I ran through that really fast. You would never do that with a seller client. It took me 30 minutes. I mean, if we're slowing down, taking your time, and you're going through each one of those, you're going to be what, an hour and a half? So how long should your marketing presentation be? Yeah, it's going to be a while because there's a lot of detail to it. Yeah, Sally, you're so right. I mean, this is how you get rid of commission objections is you show value, and you got to jump into the complexities. And gosh, I hate to be so repetitive that I drive you guys nuts, but this is problem solution value all over again. And it's tried and true, right? So yeah, awesome to know that what they will ask and again, what the answers are. Good. Well, anything else on this? I've got another tip or two here I want to share, but it's more on the coaching line. I've noticed something lately. I just want to, so please don't hang up, you guys. Just be patient for a sec. But anything else on this before we turn the channel? If you've got a thought or anything, please share it. We learn from, we learn from each other. So I really appreciate the insight. And if you're a veteran agent and you've been in the business more than 10 years, you should weigh in. I'm calling you out. Well, number 25 was 13B. So there's really, we went through 25 questions, Bob, but one of them was labeled, it was right underneath 13. So Looks like I've got an edit to make on this. Good one. Come on, nobody? You must have some thought. Is everyone multitasking? All right, who's vacuuming? Who's cooking breakfast? Who's doing a chore right now? What the?
I'll make a thought.
All right, Kim, go ahead.
I just love how you laid this out with the complexities. I'm getting ready to do a Spanish presentation, and I've got because I'm not a native Spanish speaker, I'm nervous about it, but this is going to help me. I'm just going to type up all these questions, translate them into Spanish, take those with me so that we have our talking points, because, you know, like I've told these people, you know, real estate is my expertise and I speak Spanish, but I'm not perfect in it. And so adding the complexity of another language is like, crap, how am I going to go through this smoothly? And this has been so valuable, just having those questions that I can answer and go through those. I think I'll answer most of their questions right there. So thank you so much for that layout. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, Kim. It's great. Good luck with that. I didn't realize you spoke Spanish too. You're a very talented woman.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
But I'm looking at the reality of how technical real estate is. Makes me a bit nervous, but you know, we'll do our best. And the whole thing is communication. So I'm taking my computer with me, and I've already talked to them, and they said, yeah, if we have questions we don't know, we'll just use Translate. So if it gets too technical, we've got help, but thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for that. I guess last chance. Anybody else? 3 seconds. All right, we'll pivot around then. Okay. So what's going on right now? The market is getting harder. So you're going to do more work to get a buyer under contract, probably, because you're going to show more houses. You're probably going to work a lot harder for your seller clients than you've worked, certainly in the last 2 years. We've been extremely spoiled. We forgot like that, you know, really balanced markets take listings 90 days to sell. That's the balanced market. And even though it may take 2 months, you may have a listing that takes 6 or 7 in some price points in some areas. We're having to have discussions about repricing the property and being patient. And so what happens is that they put scrutiny to what you're doing. Okay. And then when that happens and things don't happen as easy, then sometimes the human nature is that we get frustrated, and that can lead to a lot of different problems. So I'm just coaching some folks right now, and you know, it's a tough position for me, guys, because I want to tell you what I'm learning. I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable, you know, like if they were on this call, if they were, you know, if they're listening to this, or you ever come and want to talk to me, that I'm not sharing anything that I shouldn't share. At the same time, we're a learning hospital. You know what that means? The patient comes in and we treat them, and the treatment goes well. We want to talk about what we did, and we want to duplicate that, rinse and repeat. And if it didn't go well, we want to learn from the mistake and never happen again. And we value it's value for all of us. And there are occasions where something happens we want to keep confidential, and that's always the balance for me. But I would say that if you're starting to feel some pressure and frustration, let me tell you some things to do and what not to do. Okay, so let's first talk about what to do. All right, control what you can control. Get busy with the tasks and stop being so finish line focused. Finish lines are awesome, but they're not really what you're after. It's the tasks. Remember the, yeah, I got the book right here. The 4 Disciplines of Execution is all about the daily leading measures. So focus on what you can control. All right, if I were to lose weight, then I was going to focus on the things that you know help me to burn calories, be healthy. I watch my diet. I could count that, And that would be a leading measure. The result is what? Being healthy or losing weight. But if I woke up every day and was just looking at the scale or the bank account or the listings or the under contracts or my money, then that can be overwhelming and it's too critical. This morning, I was thinking about this discussion, and I realized, I'm 53 years old. I run just about every morning, feeling really great. And by the way, can you guys tell that I don't cough anymore? So sorry, 6 months of coughing. And but I feel amazing. I feel great. It took a long time to get over those viruses, I'm assuming is what happened. But look, I don't really run for pace. I run for time and distance. So like this morning, I said, look, today's a 4-mile day. I'm not looking at how fast I did it. Pace is something that can get you in trouble. Like let's do akin to real estate. If you're saying, well, I'm struggling, nobody else is, that's pace. Okay. Like I don't have what I should have because look at what they're doing. That's comparing, really rob you of the focus of where it should be for one, and really happiness. So be very careful as things start to get a little harder. Lean in on your resources and be grateful, really high doses of gratitude for everything that's going well, because so many things are going well and you have so many good resources. What not to do is to blame your ally. And it's a human reaction. I think we just, whoever's near us, sometimes we just go, oh, well, you're here, so what do you have to do with this problem? Instead of really stepping back going, let's analyze, logically what's going on with our market. How long does it take? What can I control? What do I need to pivot and shift? And this is where we all become just better professionals and better people. These journeys through, the valleys and hills of life change us. And I think that's the purpose of it, is that we grow from these things. So celebrate that. Celebrate what you're learning. Get back to focusing on the daily tasks and the things that matter most. It's the leading measures defined in the exclusive or the disciplines of execution. Okay. And I think we've talked about that in previous things, but that's a great book to have. It should be kind of one of your Bibles per se that you keep handy. The other point is laugh and smile. I was like, yeah, just enjoy this. There's a lot of things that we can poke fun at, even ourselves. And remember that humor in everything you do calms everyone down, because if you're laughing about it, you must have dealt with it, right? So find a way to laugh, will you? Don't be so serious. Don't take yourself too seriously to where, everything's a stress, pause, take deep breaths, laugh along the way, enjoy the ride, don't wish your days away, enjoy where you are right now. And I think that's a better way to approach it. The last tip for this is all in the realm of coaching here. Always be heartfelt with people, and it's all about them, not about us. You may have a tendency to say we're the biggest or whatever, but we're not. We don't want to be snooty. We want to be approachable. Don't spend a lot of time about how amazing we are. The way you inject what we do is when you're answering the question. That's why we talked about this today. They have a question, and then we inject the feature of what we are and do and the reason we do it. Okay, and it's all about them. All about them. So be empathetic and understanding. The best way to prospect for new business is to over-deliver with your current clients. That's the best prospecting you're ever going to have. Over-deliver with your current clients. And I don't mean you have to do something that we don't already have. Really, when I think of over-deliver, I think you're exceeding their expectation. And frankly, they have no idea how vast your toolbox is and resources. So if you just use the resources you have, then you're going to exceed expectation and over-deliver. And then that's where referrals are born. They're born in those moments. And boy, real estate's one of those topics that everyone talks about. So, how can you not? How's the new house? When's the housewarming party? How's the furniture searching going? It's all it's just so innate or centered in our lives that it's innate. We're going to talk about it. Yeah. Lead with heart and you'll be good. That's why I always say, like, yes, we were up at Park City and you know, Joe, and I'm really proud of this. Have you noticed how many times people say, like, I love you guys, and the word love is used often as we talk with our agents, and isn't that impressive?
Absolutely. It's one of the best things about, you know, in this business is being able to have these relationships that extend far beyond any single transaction, right? It's the true arc of an entire career.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin Larson said that a number of times. Steve Roney does. I think Joe, everyone who presented just kind of says, we love you guys. We are, we're a family. We spend a lot of time together. We're celebrating a lot of accomplishments with each other, and we love cheering you on. And yet we also need to deal with just the things of life. You know, people have passed away, parents and family members have passed away, and we you know, we pray for each other and we have condolences for each other. We support and lift each other. And there's also the challenges of business, you know, that go along with that. And sometimes, you know, we do miss a mark sometimes, and we need to be lifted. And this is why I just think this idea of loving each other and loving our clients is so needed, especially in a world that has become very cynical and, you know, delivers kind of self-serving solutions all the time. You know, like it's really harmful, and it doesn't give happiness, right? So the best fulfillment you'll ever get is helping and serving anyone. But we do that in business, and soon you forget what you got paid, but you are grateful for the fulfillment that you got from helping someone get what they wanted. And so just let's keep our hearts centered in this. Don't let the noise and the new change and shift of the market destroy any part, any fragment of who we are and what you are as a real estate professional. We've got this. All right. This is actually the perfect environment for us, right? It's perfect. Make it a little harder, because if they don't look, you're going out with, you know, nothing in the backpack. And then what, we're surprised when the storm comes. You know, we like, bring on the storms. We've got a full backpack of everything you could need. We'll be just fine. Right. And then the backpack becomes more valuable, doesn't it? Every tool. So this is a perfect position for Brookshire to be in, and for you to be in as an agent and professional at Brookshire. Okay. Any comments? Or I'll tell you what, let's do this. Go ahead and hit the chat here with, let's just do some takeaways for a minute. This is for your own neurons. So why don't you think about what we've been talking about this morning? Pick one or two things that need to be worked on, or the takeaways that you have. Hit the chat real quick, and then we'll put a bow on this coaching session and wish each other a happy day and a happy week and a successful week, helping and lifting and serving someone else. So go ahead and hit the chat real quick. Good. You know, Spencer, the way to always over deliver is to not over promise. Always keep something in your back pocket.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowledge is hey, Kim, can I add something to that? This is my, and I've said that many times. I know knowledge is power, and it is, but actually knowledge is potential power. It's when application of knowledge is then power. So to remember applying what we know, that's powerful. Knowledge is potential power. And I separate the two out because it's the difference in knowing something and doing something. But you're so right. This is a know-how business. The more you know, the better you know, the more valuable you are. Like the process breakout, great. Brooke, control what you can, and gratitude for, yep. Well, I hope you feel that, because it's a very unique place, this company. And I hope everyone feels that. So Jill, where do I find a buyer for this property? Yeah, good. Yeah, I mean, hey, that's a great question that we need to answer. Where is the buyer, and how do we get to them? And what's our methods for doing that? Now, if Jill types in an actual property, then maybe I'll change my answer. It's just like, I have a property I need help with. But thanks for weighing in, Jill. And I'm glad you're on from Cedar City, you guys. That's Jill from Cedar City just joined us. So, and Soshi, I like, yeah, the dieting analogy, where to focus your time and energy. And yeah, just please don't just get on the scale. I mean, every day. Some people want to do that, to each their own. But you know, if you're always looking at finish lines, then, and they're way out there, you're gonna have a hard time. Just take the next steps and celebrate the steps you took today. That's a victory. If you did everything you could today, that's as good as any finish line you'll ever cross, right? And frankly, they're better for you, right? Complexity is one of the main reasons why I love my job. Yeah, great. The harder it is the more we're needed. So bring on the challenge. We got this, right? Anybody else? Yeah, Amy did that too. Okay. Well, you guys, thanks for joining me this morning. And yet, we're definitely sharpening the saw. You could do that every morning. It's a good idea to do. Remember, you become what you study. So make sure you're studying something good so you become something good. Yeah. And don't worry about the things you can't control. Work on your tasks every day. Go out there and help and lift someone else and utilize the resources of Brookshire. You'll have a fantastic, fulfilling career. And love you guys. I'm not the only one. I know you guys love each other, and I know there's all the leadership and ownership of this company. Our heart is in it. We love celebrating you, cheering you on, and working on your behalf and your clients. So that's the Brookshire way. And let's go do that and do it well. Okay. Have a wonderful day, Joe. You can stop recording.